It's all about understanding where you want to be, where you are now, and are you taking the right steps? Are the things that you're doing right now things that you believe will move you towards the goal that you're aiming for? And if they are, there's then the next process, which is the check process of, am I getting the results that I was expecting? Hi, and welcome to Helping You Perform. I'm your host, Paul Teasdale. Over a career working with high-performing teams from across the globe, including 7 years working with Formula One team McLaren, I've learned a lot about what it takes to drive results. In this weekly podcast series, I'm going to be bringing you tips, tricks and insights from the world of Formula One that you can apply to your organisation for your high performance. Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Helping You Perform, where I bring my tips, tricks and insights from the world of Formula One and help you to apply them for yourself to accelerate your own performance. In last week's episode, episode 19, I talked about simulation and the simulator at McLaren and some of the amazing lessons and the privileges that I had in working closely with that team and seeing how they approach simulation in the world of Formula One, and how can we apply that thinking to our own organizations, no matter how big or small we are, so that we can get the benefits of thinking about the virtual world and testing things out in a way that means we don't have to test in the physical world and still get the benefits and get the most value. So do go back and listen to that if you haven't already. But today's episode is going to be about resilience. Now, this has come up for a couple of reasons. One, in one of the most recent Grand Prix, in the Spanish Grand Prix, I believe it was, at the start of June, Lando Norris, one of the current McLaren drivers, had a fairly surprising, actually, positive qualifying in third place, and things were looking really good for some potentially really high-scoring points in that particular race, only to have those hopes dashed with an incident in the race itself, and I think he finished 17th in the end. Now, that's an example of sort of how do you need to be resilient in the moment and when those things and the highs and lows happen to you in the moment of operation. But there was a longer term piece of resilience I was chatting to a friend about over the weekend about, what was it like working with McLaren when they were, and I think the term that is sometimes used is riding the crest of a slump. So I joined in 2015 when they were just getting into the Honda relationship and things weren't going well. And that doesn't sit well with a team like McLaren. They were failing to get good qualifying results. They're failing to get the points that they needed to do. And they were slipping lower and lower down the ranks. Now, when you're a high-performing team with high expectations, actually finishing and going down and down the ranks can be really, really demoralizing. So how do you stay resilient as an individual and an organization in those times where things aren't working for you? And one of the key things that really kept things going was just this constant reminder from everybody in the organization that what we were doing was the right thing to do at the time. They set out the long-term goals, like we want to be back on top, we want to be competing, we want to be winning, we want to be dominant again in the sport like we have been in the past. But reminding people that that isn't an overnight fix. We need to make sure that what's happening in the business is moving us towards that in a way that we can manage within our current capabilities and our current resources, but keeps us moving in the right direction. And then constant reminders as we went through that actually, we weren't expecting to be on the podium this week. We did well. We got some points that we weren't expecting. We got more points than we were expecting. Or maybe we didn't get points when we were expecting to. Now, those things are important because people need to know where they stand. And they need to know where they stand not only now, but on the path to a long-term goal. So this could well be a really short episode, really, because it's all about that. It's all about understanding where you want to be, where you are now, and are you taking the right steps? Are the things that you're doing right now things that you believe will move you towards the goal that you're aiming for? And if they are, there's then the next process, which is the check process of, am I getting the results that I was expecting? Maybe I was expecting to finish in the top 10. Maybe I was hoping to get between 6th and 10th place. Did I get that? What was the performance that I was expecting from that car on the day? Am I getting that? And understanding why. And I'm probably going to do another episode specifically on the process of debriefing, because that's such an important part of any high performance team, is how do you reflect and debrief. But that is that important step. Setting your goals in front of you, making sure that you know that your team is part of something that's moving towards a goal that is longer than just what's in front of you right now. And that what you're doing right now is moving you in the right direction towards that goal, or you have the belief that's the case. And then there's the element of the check and adjust. Are we doing the right things? Let's sit back every now and again. We're going to stand back and we're going to go, are we getting what we thought we'd get? Could we do any better? What have we learned? And what are we going to do differently to help us move towards that long-term goal? So in those times where things aren't working particularly well for you, or maybe your team or your organization, go back to what's our long-term goal here? What are we here for? What's our purpose? And are we doing the right things to move us forward? And if we're not, what else could we do? Get those ideas from your team, get ideas from external, ask other people, what are we doing wrong? Where can we learn so that we can accelerate ourselves towards the goal that we're aiming for? And times are going to be great, and celebrate those good times when you have those wins or those podium positions you weren't quite expecting. But when you do have those moments of your hopes being dashed, you've qualified in 3rd and you end up having an incident and finishing 17th, whatever that means in your organization, what are you going to do to just sit back and learn from it and say, it's happened, it wasn't great, but we've got to learn from it. What can we do differently next time? Was any of that under our control? So have a think about that for yourself. What's your long-term goal? What are the things that you truly believe, if you're doing them, will lead you towards that long-term goal? And what's the debrief or the check and adjust processes that you've got in place to continually ask yourself, are we still doing the right things? Could we do anything differently to move us towards that long-term goal? As always, if you want to have a chat about this, about how it applies to your organization, what other lessons you can learn, and how you can accelerate your performance, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, hear what your stories are, what your challenges are, how I can potentially help. But if you just want to chat about this, about some of my experiences, as always, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Helping You Perform podcast. If you found value in this episode, please take a moment to like, share, or review the podcast. You can reach out to me at any time, either through LinkedIn or through my website at www.paulteasdale.co.uk. I look forward to speaking to you in the next episode.